Brent Tucker served both as a Green Beret and Delta Force operator during his career. A Purple Heart recipient with multiple combat deployments in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, and more, Brent Tucker started First Responders Coffee Company after training first responders and seeing firsthand the budgetary restrictions and lack of resources. He also wanted the community to have an outlet to show their support for the brave men and women. Brett is also the director of training for Apollo by Medic Systems. Not gonna lie, when Tyler asked if I wanted to interview Brent, I was a little intimidated. They both do an amazing job with Antihero, and me trying to interview someone with the resume as Brent and someone with an amazing podcast, I was a little intimidated. Podcast starts off, I feel like Brent's interviewing me more than I'm interviewing him. His motivation behind First Responders Coffee Company, as well as his fondness, I guess, for first responders and law enforcement. Brent and Tyler are both amazing people doing the right thing for the right reasons. Tyler's always been there. He's been a good friend. He's helped and guided me during this journey of starting my podcast, or our podcast. So I'm beyond grateful for all of them. Check this out. Let me know what you think.
Candid stuff going, but we are recording.
Well, thanks for joining me on my podcast in your studio.
You're welcome.
This is going to go great.
So you got to ask yourself, why do you want to do this? What keeps you motivated to stay proactive and get bad guys off the street?
The facts is a big cannon against a little tiny gun of opinions, because we've all heard people give us their opinions.
Let's talk about how easy it is to get narcotics in this country. Once they're in this country, anywhere within 2 days, the drugs will be in our cities.
Because we know knowledge is power.
And the cigar smokes.
You going to SHOT Show? Lucky. You ever been to SHOT Show?
Never in my life.
Oh, I'm telling you, it's one of those things. I hate it. I do. I end up going every year. Every year I say I'm not going to go again, and then I do. But I do think it's something that everyone should go to once. But I think my phone autocorrects it appropriately when it calls it shit show. Every time I try to send it, it's something else.
What I know what it is, but why do you think that someone should go every single time? Or at least once?
Yeah, there's really nothing like it. You know, I'm sure you've been to the TOAs, like I was going to say NTOA. They're big, but you know, TTP or OTOA, those are probably bigger than NTOAs.
What is that?
The Texas Tactical Police Officer Association or the Ohio Tactical Officer Association.
I've never been to any type of, I can't say that. I've never been to any type of like SWAT conference or anything along those lines.
And that's why Ohio's as big as they are, because they did a good job, and rightfully so. They opened it up to everyone. They're like, hey, it's called it's a TOA, but everyone should know this information, and so that's why it's as big as it is. And I think they did the right thing by doing that. But anyway, if you go to any of those larger shows, have you been to street cop training? I think it's. I mean, gosh. What's the biggest crowd you think they've had? Have they hit 1,000?
Yeah.
I mean, that's as big as any of those TOAs. I mean, I'm sure someone might correct me on that, but that's a big show, right?
Yeah.
And, gosh, what's SHOT Show? You'd have to go look that up. I bet 100,000 people go through that.
Damn.
I mean, it's unlike any show you've ever been to, and that's why it's just. It will take you 2 days to walk around all the booths.
I've heard that.
It's just massive.
Is that all military and law enforcement, or is it a combination?
It's
open to public?
It's all gun related. So
Okay.
there's hunting. There's of course military kind of rules of the day, but not necessarily. I mean, there's plenty of law enforcement, plenty of hunting, plenty of just civilian enthusiasts. I say that, but I didn't know this about SHOT Show. Like, you can't just grab a ticket and go to it. Like, you have to be. It's not a show for customers in one aspect. It's a show for businesses who have customers. I don't know if that makes sense. It's like Magnet with Lion Arms. he can go because he owns a business.
Gotcha.
But if he was just like a gun nut, he wouldn't qualify to register. So even with those parameters, they still have like 100,000 people come through. It's crazy.
That is insane. So is it these companies then get tickets to give out to their customers? Is that how it works then? Or
Yeah, so like gun companies are trying to get, gun businesses to carry their guns. Gun companies are trying to get contracts for the military. Gun companies are trying to get police departments to. Now, if you're a police officer representing a police department, you can go, and there's plenty of those guys as well. So it's an industry convention.
how many days is it?
It's a whole week. They have their range day on Sunday, and then I think it's Monday through Friday,
You said
which
that-
is way more time than you want to spend there.
I think Vegas in general, that's a long time to be there.
Yeah, it's a long time to be in Vegas.
Is that why you say it's a shit show just for the fact of everything that goes on in Vegas goes on during this just after hours, and then you got to get up
Now take the largest gun show and in law enforcement and military and 2A community and put them in Vegas for a week, and it's exactly what you think it is. But everyone should go once.
Fair enough. I'll have to check it out maybe.
But if you go every year, maybe I question you a little bit. Like, you go every year? You sure? I'm gonna have to ask you a couple more questions now.
Interesting. I usually just go to like narcotics conferences and law
Yeah.
enforcement stuff. More that
Right.
avenue, not so much the tactical aspect of it.
Yeah. Well, I know it was not to keep bringing it up, but a few years ago I saw you instruct up there at Nashville
Yep.
street cop, and I enjoyed it. Me and Tyler got to watch the whole show because they do it a little bit different where they don't have like the vendor day and then the show after that. Like the vendors are there for the for the conference, so we got to watch all the speakers. And I got to learn from an outsider. I learned a lot watching, all the different instructors and watching you. And I was like, man, this is actually really good. I really enjoyed it.
I wish that there was the capability of giving that same type of education to the public without it being so chastised and criticized. Because I think if you have the ability to inform the public on a grand scale of like what is allowed, what's acceptable, and all these other things, and what cops are actually out there doing, I think that you wouldn't get criticized as much. But then it's double-edged sword because you're opening up to tactics and techniques and other things that could come and bite you in the ass later on.
Yeah, it's a similar argument that happens with special operations and military tactics. Like, should you teach civilians how to clear a house? Do civilians have any need to clear a house? I've heard a couple good arguments about that. I can see why the answer is no. I never really thought about that on the law enforcement side. It's not like what you're teaching is detection. What I think you already answered this, but because you said for awareness, generally speaking. But why? Do you want them to know, would they go through the same kind of class that you taught, or they just want to see what police officers learn so they have support for outside training for law enforcement?
I would rather them just understand at a basic level like case law, and not with all the bullshit and people that put on social media, like the actual facts of what cops can and can't do, so then you don't. If I ask someone to step out of the car, I see these videos repetitively where it's always the pushback, and if you know that you have to get out of the car when a cop asks you to, something as simple as that, and if you have it, I think in a setting where you have cops that are also lawyers and all these other things speaking about their profession and their expertise, I think that then you have a better grasp of what, even as a criminal, you can or can't do, but you still know that this is what you can and this is what you can't do.
I scroll through social media for FRCC just to either see what's new or take something and use it for ours or for the Anti-Hero podcast. I try to cut out 30 minutes a day to scroll through social media for research. I am so tired of watching people think they know the law better than cops. You can't tell me to step out of a car. Exact instance. One lady opens the door to get out. She's underage. The cop sees a bottle of vodka in the door, in the passenger door, and she goes, "Okay, well, I'm gonna search your car. I saw the vodka," and she's like, "You can't search my car." He's like, "Well, I've already seen it Like, I can now search your car. And she's like, no, you can't. She's like, well, I can. And I'm not a cop, but I believe she can once she sees the bottle of vodka inside and wants to look further.
I wasn't 100% accurate when Brent said that you could search a car based on a minor in possession of alcohol. I did some research and it was determined, in my state anyways, that you can. So I just wanted to put this in here to clarify if there's any misunderstanding or confusion.
In my state, you can arrest them for simply possessing it without even consuming it. So
Really?
if I'm underage and I have a bottle of booze in my car, in my hand, you can now go to jail, which then would give me, if I'm going to tow it, impound it, then I have the entire car. But within reason, I can search it. Now, if it was drugs in plain view, then you have the whole car. But I think
Yeah.
alcohol specific, there's a lot of other factors that come into play.
Here's a different, I think, view on that from what you just said. I don't think cops will ever be able to have the upper hand on the social media message. Like, truth never gets the clicks, gets the views. I agree with you. Like, it has to be done. Like, how do you do that? Like, there's always going to be stupid people on social media talking the loudest who aren't cops, saying what you can and can't do, and getting the most influence. And I don't know how law enforcement combats that. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, because as a cop, you're going to have to be professional. And you know what I mean? Like, maintain a certain image where you could have a criminal just come out and say outlandish things, cuss words, all these other things that would probably draw more attention through the algorithms to them.
Yeah.
Instead of the cop that's trying to give you the factual basis, or even attorneys that are trying to give you factual basis. It seems to.
This is the one I hate. And by now, I'm not a cop, but I know this is law because I'm tired of watching cops fall for this. You know what I'm going with
There's
yet?
probably one or two things I'm thinking of right now.
People taking pictures or videoing inside a post office or around a department, and if they're doing that, antagonizing you, chances are they probably know the cutout or know the law. And the first time I saw those videos, I was like anyone else, like, you can't do that. And then come to find out, like, they absolutely can do that.
And I guess sometimes we're our own worst enemies by not knowing what people can and can't do, especially the videotaping. If you have someone that's doing that, they're doing it for one reason, and it's probably to make you either social media famous or try to win a lawsuit or something along those lines.
Right. Yeah,
like
they're doing it for a reason.
Yeah, you just don't see the average person going around videotaping at the post office or fire department. Like,
they don't want to just get arrested, and learn their lesson.
No,
they clearly have some sort of intent here. And you got to read between the lines, and at least, I don't know, call up a sergeant and be like, hey, this doesn't sound right to me. What do you think? You come down here and take the hit on this.
Yeah, if I didn't know, that's the route that I would, because I'm like, this doesn't seem legit at all by any means. Those are one of the, I think the ones that are the most frustrating to me is like, as cops, we go through a police academy and they don't necessarily, they teach us like the worst case scenarios. So you leave a police academy, you think like you're going to get a fight every day, you're going to end up having shootouts every day. Every time you stop a car, they're going to either run, they're going to fight you, or they're going to shoot at you. And it never comes back down to like, you know what, like 97% of the traffic stops that we deal with are not anywhere near to this magnitude. And I understand that they have to teach us that.
Yeah.
But then you should probably give them a better ratio of what actually is going to happen, what's not going to happen. And what frustrates me the most is like the inability for cops to communicate, like what they want to be done in like a professional manner. So like they get, I guess, challenged on their authority or something like that, and it's like 0 to 100, and then instead of like, let's start off on another foot. Like, let's go back to this like community. Like, I'm sorry, this is what I stopped you for. Let me explain it a little better. Maybe you're not understanding. Instead of me going, why'd you stop me? And then you go to 100 to like, I don't know. Those are the ones that frustrate me the most.
I think we've like overused the word, so I don't like it because it gets thrown around, and I believe in like the wrong essence is de-escalation. Like, they want people to de-escalate someone with knives and guns. Like, I just, again, didn't do the job. But to me, I'm like, I don't know if de-escalation is now the time. But because once they vote, like they're voting and you're along for the ride. It really just depends on them. But more of like a social de-escalation when we're still just talking. They want to ramp it up like that. You have complete control over. You could you can stop it going from the next step. And I agree with you on that.
And I think a lot of times, like, we don't get put in, as cops, it depends on your kind of environment, but people talk at different tones and inflections and all kinds of things. So if you're an only child, your household is probably going to be quiet. You know what I mean? And then if you have 4 or 5 brothers or sisters in a household, that's what you've learned how to speak at a different volume. And then a cop shows up and, you know, like, I've seen it so many times where, like, sure, they're elevated and they're heated, but it's like
Right.
the cop shows up and says, calm down. The last thing these people want to hear right then is calm down. And
Yeah.
even sometimes I'll see it where they're like, I am calm. And they're like, no, you're yelling at me. It's like, no, that's just the way I talk. Like, and then that calming down comment,
Yeah.
it's a never ending cycle.
It
It's
is.
frustrating to watch.
Here's another thing what I give cops grace on, and you were just talking about like knowing the law. How many I mean, it depends on the state, right? But how many laws are there? You expect the cop to know every single law? Drew, I think you told me this law years ago. It's like in Missouri. I'm going to make it up, but I'm going to be somewhat close. There's laws still on the book where a woman can't sit on a man's lap without a pillow in between.
That's crazy.
Because once laws get on the book, it's really hard to to get them off the book. Like there's so many laws. How long does how much law do they teach you?
So in a week of traffic law and a week of criminal law and 18 weeks, but then every year in my state you have to do at least 8 hours of updated mandated training. But so you have to do 24 hours total, but 8 is specific into case laws updating, all these other things. But still, if you think about it, like the law book is like the size of the Bible. Like it really is.
Right.
It's made out of the same pages and everything. So
Right.
if
And
you
people
think,
study the Bible for years and years and years and still don't know everything about the Bible.
Exactly. So like, I mean, you hope that you either find some niche that you like and then you embrace that aspect of it, and you hope that some people in your department embrace some other niches, and then you can kind of educate each other.
Yeah,
because
you cross train off of that.
100%. Because there's no way
Yeah.
that you're going to be even in a 20-year career that you would know every single law that's in there. It'd be insane.
But I hate that because that's dependent on how proactive a person is, and how much they want to learn. And if you just want to do your job and go home, which I'm actually saying I'm on both sides of the fence. At the end of the day, there's nothing really wrong with that. I mean, just do your job and go home. Like that is acceptable to some degree and to some people. But if that's what you do, you'll never get ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I agree. My agency's pretty good. Like, so if you want to come in and do your time and go home and don't do anything extra, you'll never get punished for it. On the contrary, if there's guys out there that are doing things and taking initiative, and those are the guys that that are going to get like special assignments, promotions, those types of things. The guys that went above and beyond, but they never will punish you. Promotions might hinder, or specialty assignments, or going to the detective bureau, whatever it is. But as far as like lecturing you about your performance, that doesn't happen. As long as you show up, take your reports, and go home, and on the other end what to expect in return. But you just have to know what it is. Like, if I'm going in there doing 8 hours and leaving, I can't expect in 6 years that now I should be the one that's promoted, or I should be in the detective bureau. And
Absolutely.
a lot of
Right.
the guys that are doing that, they know,
Yeah.
like, all right, I don't want anything else, but also kind of don't ask me for anything else. I'm like, fair enough. As long as you know, like, that's where you're going to lie.
Now I got questions. I got questions. Again, we talked about this before we went on that there's so much in the military and law enforcement, the parallels. Like there's a lot when it comes to tactics, yet what doesn't parallel is worlds apart. These are things that parallel, but I don't know that it happens. If there's an incident in the military and my unit, so we'll call it your department, if a training accident happens, if something bad happens on the battlefield, anytime there's an incident, like it gets put in AAR and after actions report format, and everyone gets to learn from it. So let's say you're on a tricky traffic stop where there's variables involved, and he applies the law wrongly, although it looks like one of those things, not necessarily his fault, but he was wrong. Does that get disseminated to the rest of the department and be like, hey, Deputy Duffy did this, he was wrong, but we're going to put this out so this doesn't happen again? Is there a lot of that goes on?
Yes, there's tons of training that real life scenarios dictate future training, but usually we won't throw that person under the bus, but we'll say like, I don't know, this incident took place, and this is the correct way of handling it. Not necessarily what he did exactly, but then you kind of give him the correct way. But we do a lot of things where if we see things that people go hands-on and fights and struggles and things like that, we go back now with the use of body cams and stuff and like dissect it to help that individual officer out and to put it out to other individuals too. Like, hey, like this is what took place. How to prevent this? This is what you should do. And then I think that we've been very forward thinking in that.
Yeah.
Not a lot of departments are that way, but we have been.
I don't know the right answer on this. Let me just tell you where I came from. You do something dumb, oh, you're going to answer for it, like in front of everyone. Like, when you get everyone together, you're like, hey, who did that? And you got to raise your hand because they already know who did it. What were you thinking? Why did you do that? And you got to sit there and explain to everyone why you're a dumbass. And by this time, you've already talked to everyone. You've replayed it in your mind. You know you're a dumbass now, and now you have to tell everyone why you're a dumbass at that moment. It's painful, but I don't think it's bad. I don't, and some people may not like that, but I tell you, you want to stop from making mistakes. Have some sort of consequences for your mistakes. I guess I can argue that both ways.
Yeah, I guess like I got to look at like the group of friends that I have, or people that I associate with in my department. There's tons of ball busting when it comes to that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you mess up, like you're not living it down.
More at a team room level. Okay,
yeah. But then if we go as a department wide, there might be some officers that specific that they wouldn't handle that well, and then you still have to work with them. So it's kind of gauging the person's personality, I guess, if that makes it more of a sense, like than a blanket statement. And I don't know if that's the right answer or not, because then you're looking at it like, well, maybe I'm paying favoritism here or not here, but you know how the personalities are going to work, and if you do that in a public setting to one person, they might shut down, and another guy's be like, yeah, I'm an idiot, this won't fucking happen again, and move on. You got to kind of play with those personalities a little bit more.
I agree with that.
Especially in the police world, I feel the military's a lot more structured where, you're pretty much stuck with them the whole time. So I think there's a lot more camaraderie there too.
And even that, I wouldn't say that's, I'm not speaking for the military, military wide, that's more of a culture from where I came from. And I guess more specifically in the special operations community, and that's not even true in all the special operations community. But I would say generally that the higher up you go, the more you get called out in front of everyone. I don't think it's a bad thing.
No, so in the specialty units, I guess within law enforcement, like if you're on a SWAT team, K9, things along those lines, that happens, I feel like way more often than just the general patrol, so you're definitely going to, you're held to a higher standard as is, so now you're going to be, you better be able to, they're putting you in stressful situations, so if you make a mistake, you better be able to handle it, and because you're going to get accommodated too, because you're going to do a lot more stressful things. So the likelihood that they know that you can handle the stress. This should not be stressful. Like you just admit to your faults and move forward.
This should not. This if this breaks you, we got a bigger problem.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. So that makes more sense then.
I'm excited. I can feel it.
Yeah,
it's going to be a good one.
I don't know about that. I'm pretty intimidated by
law enforcement, first responders, military veterans. We see things and put our body through stuff that no one else in society has to deal with. We are good at coping with it mentally, but it still takes a toll on our body. Hormone replacement therapy is a great way to keep your body functioning as it should. And I'm not talking about walking around looking like you're Arnold Schwarzenegger. Just the typical body that we need to function in society with mental health, mental clarity, performance in all aspects of life. I have several family members and friends that have turned to hormone replacement therapy in order to produce a better life for themselves and their family. We are thrilled to partner with HPTRT, veteran and first responder owned company that knows what we are looking for and what we need. They actually care about the first responders, they actually care about veterans. They know what we're going through, and they are willing to help us in any facet of life. Not only with the hormone replacement therapies, but also medical doctors that have partnered with major pharmacies across the country and willing to do any type of telehealth that you need. If you're feeling sick and you want to lay on your couch and do a teleconference,
they will send medications to major pharmacies that they have partnered with. So if you need any type of medical assistance, from hormone replacement therapy all the way up until you just feel like shit and need some telehealth,
Give them the opportunity. Use code RED, R-E-D, for 10% off.
How did you start the coffee company?
There's a long story. There's a shortened story. I'll give you the shortened story.
That works.
I was down in Fort Lauderdale training their SWAT team, which I got to do again a few years later, just a couple weeks ago. And I was doing it for free with a nonprofit. And that me and an ST6 guy started. And it's still going. And Blue Force Strategies. And they provide free training to police officers. We're sitting there. I was driving down, and I was thinking, like, we have to do a fundraiser. We have to go ask people for money. I just don't like asking people for money, and some people try to make you feel better, like, oh, yeah, especially if you can get into like the right group in front of the right group of people, rich people. They say, well, they got to give their money to someone. Like, you know, you're not asking for money. They're going to give it to someone. You're just trying to get them to give it to you.
Still weird to me.
It's still weird. Still doesn't feel good. And so I just had an idea. I was like, well, what if we don't go asking people for money? Like, what if we can raise our own money? Like, maybe start a business, use the profits for that, or start a business where all the profits for that, go to this. And that was the beginning of it. It took 6, 7, 8 months for it to turn into a reality, but that's what started it, actually.
And with a coffee company, anything specific? Are you a big coffee friend?
Oh, yeah. And coffee specific, I thought of Black Rifle coming from the military community. I was trying to think of, I'd in the service, I'd had a small business, and it was custom wood flags, just like that one. And I just thought, as a business model, it sucked. And because once I sell you a flag, kind of like, why do you need to buy another one? They're hard to make, they're hard to ship. You can really only sell one to an individual, although it was a great business and I really enjoyed it. From that business aspect, I didn't like those aspects of the business. And when I thought about Black Rifle, I was like, man, that's a great business model. You sell, once they like your product, they have to keep ordering it. It's easily scale upable. It's easy to scale up. We're going to use a word that I know is a word. That business is not going to scale up. So I just liked everything about the business aspect of it. And I also thought to myself, hey, there's veterans are catering to veterans and saying, hey, like, you don't have to drink a coffee that before Black Rifle, liberals owned the market. I mean, they kind of did. And so they found their niche. And I was like, there's nothing like that in the first responder community. And even though I'm not from the first responder community, I just have a big heart for them. I've said it before. The wars are dying down. We're not at war anymore. There's a lot of benefits out to the military. If my family gets hemmed up tonight, the Delta Force isn't coming to save my family. It is first responders that are going to come save my family. So between training them, depending on them, that's just where I wanted to invest my time and energy into. And so that's why coffee. I thought there was a niche in the space. I didn't really know anyone in that space that had really planted a flag there. And before us, the only option you had if you didn't want to buy Starbucks was, as a firefighter or a police officer, was to buy Black Rifle. And so now we're giving you an option and saying, hey, like, this part of this funding goes back to the community.
Nah, that makes sense. It just seems like it would be an enormous undertaking to be like, all right, where am I going to get the beans from? Like, this is a whole process, especially if you don't know anything about it. That's crazy.
So it's part of a long story, but I'll add this in there. I really, for whatever reason, I wanted to write. I always knew I was going to start another business. Just didn't know what it was. And so I wanted to write a business plan. And even for our nonprofit, we wrote a business plan, but I wrote part of it, he wrote part of it. And I really enjoyed, like, the digging and the finding out information and figuring things out to present this business plan. So I enjoyed that. So I wanted to write a whole business plan anyway to get that experience. And I actually wrote the business plan to talk me out of doing it. And I'm like, I'm gonna write a business plan because I always wanted to. This would be a great thing to get one underneath my belt. And when I put all these numbers together, it'll probably talk me out of this. And it did the opposite and kind of talked me into it. And even then, I was like, well, maybe my numbers are skewed. And because my mindset of why I wrote the business plan, I tried to use very conservative numbers, and it still looked good to me. And so I thought to myself, maybe you're not able to, completely detach yourself from an optimistic view of this. So I gave it to a friend of mine who was very business savvy, had brought several companies to the market. And I was too embarrassed to tell him that I wrote this. And so I told him, I said, hey, a friend of mine wrote this and sent it to me. I'm not really qualified to look over this. I was like, could you look over this business plan? He goes, absolutely. He looks it over. He calls me and he goes, you want to go to lunch? We'll talk about it. I said, sure. And he goes, hey, who I need to know who your friend is that wrote this business plan. And I'm like, oh, you can just tell me the bad news and I'll pass it forward. He goes, no. He goes, this is a great business plan. Like, there's a couple things I'd do different, but if he's looking for an investor, I'd be very interested. And that's when I was like, ooh, okay, well, I'll, to be upfront with you, I was too embarrassed. It's my business plan. And he gave me some great advice on that business plan to where I thought I would need an investor. And he went through that and picked through the numbers, and to a point where I realized if I put enough of my own money into it and a loan, I wouldn't have to have an investor, and I could truly work for myself. Because if you have an investor, you're working for your investors. And if you have investors on a startup, it's high risk. It's a high risk. You have no past performance to go off of, so they're going to give you a loan that's advantageous to them because of the risk, and I understand that. So that's the answer to that.
So you did everything?
Oh, yeah. So I said that's the answer to that. Hamster fell off the wheel for a second. Like, you were like, well, the business plan is what got me all the answers to where do you source the beans. I had no idea. Where to source the beans. But I can't do a business plan without numbers. And I just cold called people. Hey, do you sell coffee beans at wholesale? And just Google people. Phone call after phone call after phone call. And eventually I got the right answers, but I had no idea where, not just to get beans from, where do you get packaging from? Who's going to design your packaging? What machines do you use? Google K-cup machine, and you're going to just get a Keurig, on that you make in the mornings. Like, I didn't even know the right words to Google, So it was that took a long time trying to source the machinery, the packaging, the beans themselves. But the business plan really is what enabled me to do it. But it was painful.
How long did it take you from business plan to getting your first product sold or in the market to be sold?
Man, I think I have 9 revisions of my business plan. They're all small, but I kept revision 1, and so I have them all on my computer. I think if I had to, off the top of my head, it probably took me 6-7 months to finalize the business plan itself, and it probably took me another 6 months to sell to open the door, sell my first product.
And how long have you been in business for?
November of 22 is when we officially started, and so we're this year November will be 3 years. Nice. But obviously we're closer. This just started, so we're closer to 2 years and 3 months right now. First year was tough.
Is it painful?
First year was tough, and everything I put in that business plan was wrong. all my numbers were wrong. Because where do you get these numbers from? Like, you have no idea. And marketing's funny. They can tell you, hey, this is your marketing plan. This is how many people you'll reach on, off marketing, and you get wild numbers for marketing. Anywhere from focus marketing will give you 0.3 to 0.5% of a conversion rate, all the way up to 1 to 3%, which is, when you're talking about getting your message out to millions, which is what our business plan had, 0.3 to 0.5% and 1 to 3% are massive difference in sales and numbers. And we didn't reach either one, high end or low end. And but that's where I really think, a special operations background helps. I don't think you have to have one, but you apply those same things. Hey, this is our plan. This is what we're going to execute. And then you hit the ground, and nothing on your plan is going right. So you have to identify, hey, what's going right? How fast can we fix this? Maybe there's 7 things going wrong. You can't handle all 7 things going. Now you have to prioritize what's going wrong, deal with those. It's just, I think there's a lot of correlation to that, and that's what I tried to apply. And 2 years later, we're not there. We keep making mistakes, but we're definitely getting there. We'll be around for a while.
I feel like the military and going into a private business is very similar to law enforcement. And Tyler talks often about it, but the communication aspect, cops always sell them so short. Like, I don't know what to do after this. I have no skills. I have no, whatever it is. But the ability to not get stressed out about situations, the ability to communicate, I feel like all of those come from first responders, the military, and they transition to the private world so much better than, not taking anything away from college, but like a college kid coming in fresh, and especially in this day and age where communication's all focused on text messenger. There's very, very little even communication on the phone, let alone face-to-face, and all of a sudden you are trying to start a business and you want to be the face of it.
Yeah.
It's going to be a hell of a challenge for you.
People can have different views on this, and that's fine. I don't have a college education. I didn't need a college education to start this business. Super ironic that I just messed up the word education when saying I don't need one. It's not lost on me, but I didn't. Yeah, especially in today's age where you have Google. I hate to say, but Google's a heck of a reference. You can. Everything you want to find about business is there. And the other problem is this. They're going to tell you, they can tell you as much about business and marketing as they want, but every business is different. And I learned that from asking a lot of questions to my other friends that were in business. And what worked for them in marketing didn't work for me in marketing. What worked for me in marketing didn't work for them in marketing. And what worked for me in packaging, wasn't what they needed for packaging. So at the end of the day, unless that college knows exactly what business you're going to start and can educate you on your specific business, and it's not even your specific business at the time that you're going to launch that business. Because even in different economies, you have different approaches to business. So there's just so many variables. I just don't think it's that important. And what we're talking about is an exchange of education for life experiences. And I 100% agree with you. Talking and things that a college can't necessarily teach you. Yes, college will try to put stress in you. There's a lot of stressed out college students trying to get their papers in on time, but it's not. It's self-perceived stress.
It's a different stress.
It's a different stress when you're a cop or in the military and you feel like your life's on the line. That's real stress. Let me tell you what else is real stress. When your business isn't doing real good, and you have a payroll and the account is going down each month and not going up, that's real stress. But just like our line of work, where you have to brush off that stress and still come into work every day professional, or in that situation be professional and pretend like the stress isn't there, you have to do the same thing in the business world. I can't come into work knowing the finances are bad and tell everyone, I don't know, guys, I don't know if we're going to make it, but just keep pushing in case we do. You see that coming to work, hide that, shoulder it, and just press forward.
Do you feel that you have a responsibility to the people that work for your company now too?
100%. That's most of my stress, to be honest with you, and as it should be, as it should be.
Yeah, that's I never wanted to start my own education company, but doing it now and having a few other instructors with me and having, some people that we outsource some of our stuff to, but now I feel that I am responsible for them. Like, even if I was like, oh man, this guy offered me an opportunity to go with his company, I'm like, can I bring everyone with me? Like,
Yeah.
because
Right.
I feel responsible to them, and I'm like, nah, I'll just kind of tough it out and do my own thing because now I have this relationship with them, and I can let myself down, and I'm fine with it. I don't want to let them down.
I think it also goes to this. You're working for me. You have a commitment to me. You do. You are committed to me. You are, especially in this type of small business, you're working. I need you to work more than just punch in and punch out. Like, I need you to help grow this business with me. And yes, you have skin in the game, and it's your job too. But at the end of the day, you're asking a lot of those people. And by not ensuring that you don't do everything you can, like, you have responsibility back to them. And that's a healthy business environment. You bet on me, and I'm going to bet on you back. And by not keeping their job or going under, or not, having them, especially in this economy where good jobs aren't always readily available. Yeah, you commit to me, I'm committed to you back. My commitment to you is you have a job.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Back to the college thing, I feel that certain things there's college need for. Like, I want my doctor to go to college. I want my attorney to go to college.
With 100%.
When it comes to the business aspect, I feel that you don't see Elon Musk, like college, Mark Zuckerberg, all these guys that are like uber wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
College wasn't something that was, I don't know if they all finished it or some of them started, some of them didn't finish, all these things. But I just feel like if I was 18 years old and I had the ability and I wanted to be in business, I would be like, I'm going to go volunteer my time for 4 years. And I'll be like, if you know what, let me just follow you around. Like, literally, let me something along those lines. I think that now I'm living a life that have a goal, but now I can see what took or where he's at and maybe some steps to get there. The people that are teaching business classes in college, 95% of them don't have a business. They're just telling you what some book told them, and now they're trying to I don't know, explain it to you and how to get there or whatever it may be. I just don't think that certain degrees aren't necessarily in college.
Yeah, I'll walk that back because I was thinking, in a specific case in my mind. So I'll 100% agree with you. Lawyers, doctors, engineers, you better go to college. Even in business, you might want to go to college, and I'll actually specify that. If you're going to be a small business owner, I don't think you have to go to college and get your MBA. I just don't. But if you want to go, if your idea of getting into business is going to the corporate world, you better go to college and get an MBA where it does matter. And if you're going to do that, you're still going to have to climb the ladder, but you may not get that opportunity to climb the ladder without that.
My wife has an MBA, and that's what she did. She didn't go. She just climbed the corporate ladder in multiple different corporations.
Yeah, and this is where military and college are similar, where you're asked to make a decision about your career at the earliest possible moment, where you know the least about what you're going to do. So you join the military. Most people join the military. They have no idea what they want to do, and when you join the military and you're in that job, sector, you're going to stay in that, barring going to selection for certain units, you're probably going to stay in that MOS, in that career field the rest of your military career. And you made that decision with the least amount of knowledge about that job. And that's difficult. It is. And college is the same way. So you're going to say, well, I'm 19. I don't know if I'm going to start a small business. I don't know if I'm going to go in the corporate world. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I get that. I don't know the answer for it. And I guess some people would be like, well, go to college, and either way, it's an option for you. Yes and no. Let me tell you about small businesses. You put debt around your neck and try to start a small business, the least amount of debt you have, the better. And you may never be able to start a small business with 5 years of college underneath your belt after an MBA, and you may never be able to get out from underneath that. So it's difficult. I acknowledge that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, is it easy to change your MOS in the military?
No.
So
it can be done, not easy.
Okay. So similar to college. I mean, once you start down, you're 2 years into college, most of the classes you took, if you wanted to say, you know what, I wanted to be this, now I want to be a teacher, you're going to have to spend more time because you only have so many electives. So I'm guessing it's probably Yeah, it's not the most conducive way of, I guess, picking your career at 17 or 18 years old.
That's right.
It's kind of rough.
I mean, you got as far as I know, you got 2 years to pick your major. As long as you're an undergraduate, you have time. But still, in those 2 years, you think you're going to figure out without being in the business world, what you want to do? You're probably not.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't think any chance in hell that would happen.
But this is. I'll just get on my soapbox for a second. This is where I think our culture and mindset of parents to kids, we don't do them any favors. We tell them things like, just do whatever you love. Like, what do you want to do? Do what you want to do. No, that's horrible advice. How many people are in jobs that they want to do? Do a job, and I'll just talk, as a man for a second to a man. Do a job that provides for your family. First and foremost, you love music, and you're going to go to college and study music. Guess what? You'll never. There's a good chance you may never provide for your family.
Yeah.
So we just have to get out of that mentality, and if we push them harder in that aspect to say, no, you need to start thinking earlier about what you want to do, and the goal to your education and your next job is to provide. And if it happens to be something you like, great. If it happens to be something that you kind of gravitate towards, even better. But it's not. You're probably not going to do what you love.
Yeah, I mean, that's what hobbies are for. I'm not trying to be a
That's
dick.
right. That's what hobbies are for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, you usually work to make your life better, your family's life better, and what you love is a hobby that you spend the time off of work. And now, if you can combine those two, miraculously, a very small percentage of the population probably is able to do that. More power to you, but the likelihood is not going to be there.
Right. And guess what? If you do that job that you're just doing for a paycheck, and a good paycheck because you set yourself up for that, if you really, really don't like it, and now I have to go back to this, and you make smart financial decisions, and you're not house poor, and you don't have a brand new car, and you're not living beyond your means and just living paycheck to paycheck, even if you are within your means, paycheck to paycheck isn't within your means. You will find it very, very, very hard to switch jobs or to find an opportunity where you can do something you like. So I still go back to do something you may not like, but you can do, and live appropriately. And then later on, you can start something, switch to something, do something else, take a risk. But if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're now stuck in that job, and you're twice as unhappy because now you're stuck in something you don't like doing. And that's even worse when you do something you don't like and you're stuck.
Because you have to.
Because you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone in your family start out businesses, or are you the first one that started?
Oh no, I come from a long line of that. My great grandfather started one of the first hardware stores in Christmas, Florida, when it was a podunk place. My grandfather started Tucker's Farm and Garden Center, which was a feed store that my dad took over. My dad did that. He didn't start it, but took over a construction business because he was really good at the books. He had a friend that was really good at construction, but not good at the books. And so he essentially started that business, but it had already been running through the general contractor. And he had his hands in a couple other things. So when my dad sold the business, which was really, I signed up after September 11th. I was going to do 4 years in the Army and go back to the family business. If 9/11 didn't happen, I'd have never left the family business. That's all I wanted to do. I wasn't going to go to college because I had a family business to go into. There's no reason me to go to college. Just hang out with my dad for 4 years, and I'll learn way more than college could ever teach me. So when I ended up doing 20 years in the military and my dad sold the business, I knew that I was going to start a business somehow, some way, at some point, because I can't work for anyone else.
Do you think that, I mean, some of the business entrepreneur stuff that you have, is that from like your family, like seeing them do it? Did you learn things, or?
Absolutely. I learned things from them. I think there's a little bit of genetics involved, where there's of entrepreneurship. My older brother also started several businesses, and the first business you start, the second, it's not more than likely they're either going to fail or they're not going to be successful enough to continue down that road. But just because the business didn't, turn into $1 million business, without a doubt, doesn't make it a failure. One of my favorite shows is either History or Discovery Channel, and it's The Men Who Made America. Have you ever seen it? Oh, it's great. You got to watch it. And they go through like generationally from like the Gilded Age, railroads, old school money, the Biltmores, to the industrial age, to Heinz and Post cereal, all the way to Coke, McDonald's, and so they just kind of go more recent. Most of those guys, except for the old money, most of those guys had started several ventures and were on their very last leg before they found something that worked. So just because you go off and do something, doesn't mean it's going to be successful. But I think there's something in their DNA they just can't help themselves. Like I'm either going to make it big or die trying. And every business that doesn't make it, if you look at it right, if you don't look at it as a failure, you will find plenty of things that you did right or that you did wrong, and then do it better in the next one.
That makes sense. Either Microsoft or Apple. One of them was like, I remember it was like in the garage and they blew up. And even if you look at Amazon, they started out as like a college book company or something.
Sure did.
I don't know how the hell he turned it into what he did, but yeah, it's amazing stuff. I mean, starting your own business is challenging, but I think it's rewarding. Like, I mean, even small rewards, small successes, but I don't know. I feel like early on, it's a lot more failures than successes.
Absolutely. And every single business owner was very upfront with me and told me the same thing, which is great because you need to know what you're stepping into. And they say, you will never work more for less money than you will starting your own business. And they couldn't be any more right. FRCC is 2 years old now, and I still haven't received a single paycheck from FRCC. We've given away more money than we could have hired a whole nother person with the money we've given away at FRCC. But that's the reason why I started it. I think people do recognize that, and like, okay, this company does what they say they're going to do, and I believe it gets rewarded. And we've had our first year was tough. Our second year was percentage-wise an amazing year off of our first year, and if we continue to grow, it will be something. It will be worth all the free work that I've put into it. But that's just part of it, and it goes back to financially. I do other jobs to make sure FRCC stays afloat, and if you haven't positioned yourself financially, you'll never get see a company through to see what it could be.
Yeah, if you're living paycheck to paycheck and you try to start something, there's like the piece of mind. I don't know, and I don't know how you'd make it happen. It's got to be virtually impossible unless you're going to take out an enormous amount of debt or loans or something. Like, I don't know how you would even manage it. Just for me personally, like the stress alone of like, and I'm not even anywhere probably near the financial for our small little training company, but like that stress alone, just trying to like figure out the merchandise aspect, figure out like the margin, like how much can I allot to this, how much can I do this, and like travel, all these other things.
Right.
It's just.
Yeah, you're referring to Microsoft. That was a company, a computer company started out of a garage. Black Rifle Coffee Company started out of Evan Hafer's garage. And everyone has this very either short memory or like we just assume, and like, oh, they've always been, they just hit it big. He just put a package out there one day and he just couldn't fill all the orders, and and they're just huge now. He grinded for years out of his garage, barely making sales before things went really good for him, and now things are really good for him. But it didn't just happen for those guys. And I say that to say this: if you're going to start your own business, you're not always able to do this, but keep your job, start your business, and start at a very low level. Start it out of your home. Do not add overhead, into your business, and don't add the stress of that it needs to pay you every month. start it out of your business, and as it grows, you'll be able to see it grow, and you'll be able to make a good decision to say, okay, it's time to switch horses. We can do this. But I really do. I think it goes back to, I don't think enough people out there are willing to humble themselves and be like, yeah, I have a business that I just run out of my garage. And they're like, really? Just run out of your garage? That's not very cool. You don't have your own podcast studio. You know, we didn't have a podcast studio at first. You know, before I was on the Anti-Hero podcast as a co-host, I was on a guest with Tyler. And where did we do that episode out of? Your den. We did it out of his house. You know, I think people just have this idea of like when you start it, you have to go big, and go big or go home. Like, no, I don't think you should.
Yeah, especially with something that's not proven. Now, if you were to like, I don't know, make something that people loved and it was like a specific shirt and it blew up, maybe. But like, I still wouldn't even do something like that. I would definitely like, I don't know. I think it's admirable that you are running a business and you have a full-time job, and even if it's out of your garage or whatever the hell it is, like, I don't know, I think it's admirable that you're trying to set yourself up and your family up for, longevity and long-term success while working mainly 2 jobs. It's impressive. It doesn't matter where it's out of.
The truth is, I just want to, and maybe there's someone in business right now or wants to get in business, and they hear, well, Brent hasn't taken a paycheck in 2 years. Like, I could never do that. Because I'm able to, I've been reinvesting into the business. I didn't think our packaging was up to par, so we rebranded our whole packaging. What, Drew? What do you have? You think we got 5,000, 7,000 old bags that we never used? More than that? Like we have an insane amount of bags that I bought initially, thinking that this is where we're heading. Buy all these bags, let's go, because it was in the budget, because I didn't know any better. And then you get a year into it, you're like, you know what? Our packaging is not. People don't care about the mission that much. They kind of care about the mission, but it's a coffee bag. Does it have to look cool? Apparently it does. And we spent probably $20,000 in packaging, like redoing all of our packaging. So I had to reinvest into the business and do that. And then we started the cigar company because we're like, hey, we're getting more requests for funding from law enforcement to help them out than we could ever fulfill unless we grow. And so we had a meeting, and we talked about expanding the coffee line. And the idea was, our coffee line's good. Just adding another bag isn't going to increase sales, and if it does, like, not significantly. And plus, the amount of money that's now going to have to go into packaging to create this new product, may not be advantageous. And so we decided to go with cigars, and it was risk. I mean, we're a coffee company. You a coffee company, you a cigar company. Like, it's a little bit of a risk. And now we have, again, all new packaging and a lot of inventory that we have to buy. And in 1 year, we went from our Alpha cigar to our and then added the Bravo, and then added the Charlie, and then added the Delta, and added the Delta Limited. And that includes, and then we added ashtrays and humidors and lighters and cutters. You have to pay for all those things up front, and the money isn't coming in. So expanding a business, and your business, generally speaking, isn't going to magically expand unless you invest into it and give it a reason to expand. So even though I can sit here and say boo-hoo, I haven't took a penny in 2 years, the company has grown because of that. And that's why our second year is so much better than our first year, because I didn't take a paycheck, and we're like, we're going to keep reinvesting in this to make it something. So it's a double-edged sword to say that. With
Buying those things, buying in bulk, is it cheaper? Like, so the more you buy, the cheaper per item?
It is, and that goes back to hindsight 50/50. Like, you don't know the right answer. The reason why we had a ton of old bags that were unused, because we bought them in bulk, so that brought down our unit price. And then when something changed, we had a bunch of, as a new business, with no past performance to know, how many you buy, how many you go through. You just assume you make the best decision. For us, when we repackaged and when we started the cigar lines, we bought everything at the lowest MOQ, the lowest possible quantity we could, because we were even though it wasn't advantageous cost wise, if we were to change course or be wrong, it wouldn't hurt as bad. Was that the right answer? I don't know. It's what we did, and then we slowly, as the we'll just focus on the coffee brand, the cigar, as the cigar brand grew, we definitely upped those orders to try to reduce costs, but we didn't do it right off the bat.
Are you so back to the coffee? Are you importing beans here and then manufacturing them here, or how does that work?
We do everything. It's we have a coffee broker, and he gets us our beans from Brazil. Our initial roaster had his own roasting company, and we've overwhelmed him so much with roasting. He said we essentially own him now. He still does his own brand, but we are able to cost share on that. But he's our roaster. We get our beans solely from Brazil because they're lower in acidity, and we grind it in house. We package it in house. We send it, we mail it, and everything happens in house. And there's another thing that you have to decide on. Like, are you going to white label it? Are you going to have someone else make your package, and then someone else do everything for you, and then essentially you're just a marketing company. Someone else can make your coffee, put it in your coffee bag, ship it for you. You'll pay a little bit more for it, obviously, because someone else is doing all the work. But sounds nice, doesn't it? Sounds like really easy. But to me, it just seems like you're kind of a fraud. Yeah, you say you're a coffee company, but you don't even touch your products. You don't roast your coffee. You have no say in your roasting. You don't grind your own coffee. You don't package it. You don't ship it. So what do you do? You're a marketing company is what you do. It just felt less than genuine. And that's actually not. If someone else decides to do that, that's not a hit on them. Just want to make sure that's a personal feeling that I had. That's why we didn't do it.
No, that makes sense. I was trying to.
We probably should have. It probably would have been a better thing to do. We just couldn't do it.
We had more time than money at the time.
That's 100%. That goes into it.
With the cigars, is it the same concept? Importing, or is everything American?
We try to buy as much as we can American, and specifically law enforcement. Our ashtrays are made by a retired Orange County SWAT officer.
That's cool.
Our shirts are made by a retiring SWAT officer. 321 Apparel. Drew, you can probably go down the list of
credit card processing is about to be a first responder.
Yeah. Our credit card processing is about to be a first responder business. Who started our website who designed our website was a firefighter.
That's awesome. Everything
we do, we try to incorporate into the first responder community as another way to give back. But when it comes to cigars, the labels are made here in Tampa, but they're Nicaraguan cigars. You're not going to find an American cigar company. Now there are wrappers, like the cigar wrapper. There's a Connecticut that comes from the Connecticut and other states in the Northeast. There's a Pennsylvania wrapper, but for the most part, the cigar companies come from other parts of the world. And the few places you can get a truly American cigar, I hate to say it, you're not going to want to pay for it, and the quality's not going to be there. And I hate saying that, but that's also just the truth of that.
What do you see expansion for you with either one?
For us and anyone listening, if you got a cigar bar that you love to go to, be sure you tell them about us. Our online sales are great. We're trying to expand our wholesale platform. So we have a wholesale side that's expanding every month, if not every week, getting into a new cigar shop. So for us as a business, we can try to push all the sales that we want and internally. But I believe to us it'd be more advantageous to get our product into as many cigar bars as possible, and they sell your product.
That makes sense.
And cigar people love a good story. Love a good story. So when people find out this is a veteran-owned company, They give back to first responders. It's an American-owned company, obviously. That resonates with a lot of the cigar smokers in America. It just does. Also, just our name. The amount of retired cops and firefighters that already go into these places and they see a product that's a lot of these cigar products, and rightfully so, are very South American designs. You know, it's a very Latin based. What's the word I'm looking for?
Latino.
Yeah, a very Latino based flavor to it. You know, everything is a Spanish name to it, Spanish designs, because that's when you think of cigars. That's, you know, it'd be like saying wines and not thinking of Italy, you know, or France. Like, that's just what you think of. So we're very different in that aspect. Our packaging is very American, pro-American, pro-first responder. We don't hide it at all. We put it out there. So when those customers look at it, they're like, "Oh, hold on, I can correlate with this." So that aspect for on the cigar side, growing our wholesale side, getting as many cigar lounges as possible is our aim this year. And I really think the goal on the coffee side, our online sales on coffee is growing, but the difference between coffee and cigars is this: a cigar, you will buy one online because to get a cigar, you got to make a special trip to the cigar store. If you don't want to make a special trip, then you order it online. Like, it's not a big deal to you. Either way, you have to do something special to go get a cigar. If you want to get coffee, you're at the grocery store. Like, you have to add a different step into the process. And so they really have to want your coffee to care enough to buy it online. It's a labor of love, honestly. Like, for them to support me, it says something, because they could make their life so much easier by getting to the grocery store. So for us, is to finally get into grocery stores, and we've been in talks with Publix, Winn-Dixie, Tractor Supply,
Ace Hardware.
Ace Hardware. We're in those talks, but we're still a young company. They want to see a little more volume because they want to know if they put in a big order that you can fill it. So I don't know if that'll happen this year. This is about the buying time for those places. Hopefully this year is our year. If not, we'll stay afloat until next year. And if not, we'll stay afloat until next year. And at some point, we will get into those stores, and that'll really put us on the map on the coffee side.
Do you guys have a lot of like mom and pop niche coffee plots around here? Because we have some up at home, and I'm just like, I know a lot of them are very pro law enforcement. Like, they donate a lot of money to like our canine association and stuff. So I'm like, maybe I could put some connections there.
Absolutely. That's where we have a wholesale, obviously, for the coffee side as well. And most of the places that our coffee is in are like mom and pop places. A handful of Ace Hardwares, because they're individually owned. So the owners themselves can carry it if they want to. A couple training facilities that already train law enforcement, military, carry our products. So there's definitely that side of the house.
And what is your fondness with first responders? Is it family? Anyone in your family, or no? Just military?
Well, some people in my family. I got two cousins that are police officers. They both retired now. They're both retired. But really, it goes back to that origin story of FRCC.
And your grandfather, highway patrolman.
Oh yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. The fondness comes from training. I don't train just SWAT teams. It's what I mainly train. But training them, seeing firsthand the things that they will voluntarily do for their community, and sometimes when their community needs them the most, they've been giving them the least resources that they've been begging for this whole time, and now they're asked to come through in the community's worst day, and rightfully so. What they should say is, or part of like, see, and this is why we asked for this, and this is why we needed this training, this is why we need this equipment. But when it happens, the community that it's happening to doesn't care. They just, whatever you got's what you got. Please help us. So I recognize that. I hate it for them, to be honest with you. I know it seems super naive that one small company can put some sort of dent into that, but But if we continue and we become the company that we want to become, I think we can.
I mean, I think law enforcement's always any company, any person, anyone that supports them, they're kind of accepted with open arms in general. So
Yeah, it's that part's been great. Even though, and I make it very, very well known. Hey, I didn't do your job. I don't pretend to do your job. I'm a fan. I'm just a fan, and I want to help out. The community's been very, very good to us.
yeah, my goal is to get you up there by us. Hopefully, we can do something with that. And I've heard nothing but positive things about people that have been to your class and whatnot. So that's awesome. Do you do it by yourself? Is this completely because I was looking for a website and you don't nothing.
You won't,
Right.
yeah, and thankfully, you won't find a website on my training. It usually just comes about with me talking on the podcast, saying, "Hey, I just came back from training this SWAT team or this police department," and I'll get some emails saying, "Hey, will you train us?" It's almost word of mouth, and that word of mouth keeps me busier than I want to be, because anytime I leave to go do that, those are, let's say it's a 2 or 3 day course, and you know this all too well. That 2 or 3 day course is a 3 or 4 day commitment from you, as far you had travel to it, and now you're there. I always think, even though while I'm there, I'm still going to get some business done and do some emails at night. I don't. I hang out with the boys, and we talk, or we do night training. I never. Those days are gone. When I get back, then I have a whole bunch of stuff that I have to catch up from. So it's painful to go do those, to be honest with you. And sometimes I hate to say it, I'll just be very upfront. Sometimes someone like, "Hey, 3 months from now, can you come out and train us?" And at that time, I'm like, "Sure, open schedule, we'll do." And when 3 months comes around, I have something literally the day before, and I have to leave because I have to be somewhere the day after. And sometimes I show up in a bad attitude. I'm like, "Man, I didn't want to do this." Well, I did, but this is just a bad time. Of all the things, and sometimes I do it for free, or sometimes they just cover the travel. They just cover my travel cost, because I don't want to turn. That's part of the charter of FRCC. To give affordable training, if not free training, to cops as well. Not just pay out checks when people need money. And I show up with a little bit of an attitude that I try to hide, and I think I do. And then, but by the halfway through the first day, I'm like, "Man, what's better than this? Hanging out with the guys, sharing information, talking tactics all day, thinking, truly believing that if there's one thing that they take away from this class that saves their life 3 years from now, what's a better reward than that?" And I always leave that place going, "I'm so glad I went there. That was awesome."
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's very cool that you do it, especially for such a minimal amount of money that you ask or get in return. That's commendable.
But I'll every now and again, it's not often enough. But in full disclosure, every now and again they'll say, "Hey," I'll tell them the same thing that I just told you. "Hey, what do you charge to come out here?" And I say the same thing to everyone, anywhere from free to all the way up to $1,500 a day, and everything's on the table, and I don't care. Do not let money be a reason that I can't share this knowledge with you. And some will take me up on the free. Some will take me up on we'll cover your travel cost. And some departments will be like, "We got money. We're going to pay someone. We'll give you what you want." And so I do it for a wide range.
No, I mean, but okay, take that out of it. But just being the willingness to do it for free is very, very commendable.
I've also had it where like, no, we're going to pay you. And then, let's say that was 6 or 7 months ago. And then like a month before training, they're like, "We lost our budget." And this has happened recently. And I said, "Hey, what I told you day one didn't change. Like I'm still coming. Can you cover my travel?" Like, "Yeah, we can probably still cover your travel." "All right, keep the dates. Let's go."
That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
And then do you do that by yourself completely, or is
Yeah, I do that. But I do it by myself. I have partnered with Apollo, and I don't know if you know do you know who ATAC is by chance? And it's more of a military thing. I won't spend a lot of like nerd time on it, but imagine it like this. When you go into your Apple Maps and you see the map and you see you. Essentially take that and we'll put it towards a tactical unit. And now, if everyone's on, it's a software. If everyone's on this app, now I can see where all 12 of my guys are, and I can see the call sign for all 12 of my guys. And if I want to put a pin drop, right here where the bad guy is, or where I want you to set up, I can put a pin drop there. If I want to make a route for you and then make a route for me, so we come in from two different ways, it allows it to make customized routes. It seems really rudimentary, like, okay, like, cool, like, why do I need it? Radio communication is the worst form of communication. Words is the worst form of communication. Would you rather have someone describe you a suspect or get the picture of what the suspect is wearing right now? Give me the picture.
Yeah, for sure.
Give me the picture. It's the same thing. Telling someone where you are right now and where you're going, how about don't tell me at all? I know where you are. I know where you're going. We'll talk when you get there. When it comes to crisis management, getting someone there first, I don't have to ask you, hey, where are you at? Where do you want me? I know where you're at. And if we're trying to set a perimeter on this, I know where you need me. It's where people aren't, It's a really, really unique tool. I'm a big fan of it. ATAC was a military app of this that we used all the time. The problem is it's complicated. And if it's complicated, no one wants to use it. So Apollo came out, designed by first responders, for first responders. And I used to promote ATAC anyway. When I say promote it, like, I had no affiliation with it. I just knew it was a very unique tool that law enforcement should look into. But now we have Apollo. And so sometimes Apollo will send out a rep with me. And when Apollo sends out a rep with me, he helps me with the classes as well. And there's been times where Apollo has come out and be like, we'll pay for your travel to make sure that this happens. So Apollo's been great. They've been a great partner helping with the training of law enforcement.
It sounded familiar. I remember maybe on the last couple of podcasts, I know you guys have been talking about Apollo. So that's where I was like, man, it sounds familiar. But now that you described what it does, I remember it now.
And it has, and really just, again, in full transparency, has nothing to do with them sponsoring they are a sponsor on the podcast. We get 10, 15 requests, to be a sponsor on the podcast. And we're blessed and thankful that we can pick and choose our sponsors. And when I heard what they did, I was like, get out of here. I've been promoting ATAC that I know is difficult. I promote it because I know they need it, but I hate it. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen SWAT teams and tactical units adopt it and then be frustrated with it. And that's how I know they're not going to use it. And they're like, yeah, we're just, we have it, but we don't use it because the server is always down. They always have a technical problem. And so when I heard about Apollo, like, this is exactly what the community needed. Please come on board. We need you.
Did Apollo get their idea from ATAC?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. They got their idea from it, and they knew. Yes and no. I've heard their story. It kind of came from Uvalde and crisis management. Of course, like on a tactical level and a team level, it definitely shines. But sometimes it's a pretty straightforward hit. Like, there's only one way to get there. Like, you don't need. It doesn't always shine in like in a warrant type of situation. Well, let me take crisis management. To me, sounds dramatic, but I'll stand by the statement. There is no other way to efficiently react to a crisis outside of Apollo. It's just the truth. You can't get that many people there at the same time, clogging up the radio, putting out bad information or old information, which is that information you said via words is only as good as when you put it out on the radio. And to have all this traffic going all the time, it just cleans up traffic. And it's not just cleaning up traffic, it's accurate information, timely accurate information. Where I just look down, I know what's going on. I'm a big fan of the product.
I absolutely hate radio traffic in general. It blows my mind. Like, I don't know. There's so many other ways that we can communicate, and I feel like radio traffic should be for emergency only. Like, we can communicate through our computers and so many other ways, but we are so stuck in this old mindset of talking on a radio.
And it seems like someone's always talking on the radio when someone else has something really important to say.
Exactly. I had one. Could you install that on like our portable radios by chance? Do you know?
It's phone based.
Okay.
It's both phone based, so it runs off of the cellular network. But in instances like natural disasters, they have their own off grid systems that you can use. Like I'm forgetting the word.
Like Starlink or something?
Yeah, well, Starlink. Starlink could do it. I was thinking of. We're gonna edit this out so I don't sound dumb.
No.
No. Okay. Perfect. I'll think of it. I'll think of it in a second.
The last with our radios, we just got new ones, and they work on certain megahertz, but they're also Wi-Fi or cellular. So if we go in a dead spot, but there's cell service, I wonder if there's a way that they could install that on.
Yes, it will ride any data network.
That's awesome. Well, Tyler's giving us the watch sign, so I think that we have to be done. I appreciate you joining me on or hosting. I don't even know how to say it. Whatever. On a combination of the Anti-Hero and Beyond the Barrel podcast, we always end with one question. What is your definition of justice? And the reason we ask that is we train our training company's Justice Academy. So how would you define justice?
Oh, that's a good question, but I'll define it I think in a different way. There's so many people that throw around the word justice, and what they actually mean is vengeance. And what I mean by that is, take the George Floyd case, Chauvin. They didn't want justice. Chauvin didn't do anything wrong. We did a whole podcast on it, and if you think he did, go look at the podcast. Go deep. Go look at what actually happened. Go look at the tactics that they actually taught. He did exactly what they taught him. But people wanted him to be locked up, and they called it justice. No, they didn't. They wanted vengeance, which is if something happens, regardless if it's good or bad, they want something bad to happen to you. So to me, my definition of justice is based off of vengeance. That you want something to happen accordingly, but it's always a reaction to something, right? Like we wanted justice after 9/11. We didn't want justice before 9/11. There has to be an action to reaction, right? Generally speaking, that's justice. So the reaction is still appropriate and moral based on the incident. My best stab at it.
No, I like it. I mean, and a lot of the answers have been very similar to that, where it's
and if you don't, and it's regardless of what you agree with. That's the problem. Vengeance starts getting emotionally driven. Justice has nothing to do with emotions. Justice, generally speaking, I feel like is pretty black and white, and your emotions can't weigh in on it. That's no longer justice.
That's exactly what I was going to say, but yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Thanks. I'm glad I got one good question, Trey. But I appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir. It's a good time.